In this video, we're going to take a look at how to set up the report cards. On the left-hand side, you will hover over report cards and then go to the quarter that you want to do. I'm doing this in the sandbox, and because of that, I'm going to use the fourth quarter. You won't need to do the edit because our dates are already set up. And you will also notice that there will be upcoming dates and things like that over here on this side. You're not going to see that in this, once again, because it's the sandbox currently. When we are ready to add a batch, you'll click Add New Batch and then enter a title. So I'm going to call this fourth quarter, 10th grade. For our batches, we can add a batch that would be for 1st through 6th grade for Logan, and then we can do a batch for 7th and 8th grade, and then we can do a batch for 9th through 12th grade. So whoever is going to use the same report card template can be within the same batch. Again, because this is the sandbox and some of the features are not exactly set up the same way, I'm just going to do this with the 10th grade. So for whichever students that are going to be included in the batch, you'll checkbox in front of that grade level. The dates should be pre-populated with the dates for our quarters. So again, this is not going to be accurate because this is the sandbox. Down at the bottom, you will see the templates. And once again, there are a lot of templates in this particular one. In ours, we have our templates that are organized by the grade level. For this demo, I'm going to just use this one that I called EA template. And then you'll click Save. So right now, this batch is in what is called pre-flight. And this means that it is not available for teachers to see, but we can still make adjustments and things like that in here. One of the things we can do is preview it, which allows us to see what this would look like on the report card that we chose. And then you can go back. We can also click to manage. Most likely we won't have to do this. However, if we have students that were unenrolled and we don't want to include them in the batch, this would be a way we could check mark that student and remove that student from the batch. We can also remove an entire class from the batch if we needed to do that for whatever reason. When we're ready to start the batch, we can hit start, and once we do that, it will show up on the teacher's gradebooks. However, they will not get notified, so we will still need to let them know that those batches are open whenever we do that. Once I click that, now you'll see that it has moved over into the active batches. And this is going to tell me how many students are not included in the batch. And I can even go through and see, for example, like this is a 12th grade student, 11th grade student, etc. And these are not included in this particular batch. So a batch is essentially a folder that will have all the report cards for that group of students. Here we can see how many of them have been distributed and how many of them have been approved. Under the options, we can preview the batch. Again, this takes us to a preview of what the report card will look like. We can manage the batch, which again takes us to that same page where we are able to deselect unenrolled students and or change any classes if we need to. We can delete the batch if we need to do that. It will delete everything and all those report cards. And then we can also view the queue. The queue is where most of the time is going to be spent in actually doing anything with the report card. Another way you can access the queue is to just click on the folder for that batch. In the queue, this is where, again, you will do most of the managing of the report cards. So anything that is over here under the open column, these are report cards that teachers have not completely turned in all of the grades for that student. The little red circle here with a number tells you the number of teachers that have turned in grades out of the number of courses that that student has. The to review column is the section where the teachers have submitted the grades. All of the teachers have submitted the grades for that student, and those report cards are ready to be checked over and reviewed and approved. Once they are approved, then they will go into this third column. Under that approval column, basically that means that they are ready to be published and distributed to the students. And then this last column is where we can distribute, and we have that verification that they are distributed. So as we go through, I will talk about each one of those in a little bit more detail. So right now, none of these students have any teacher grades turned in. So we'll have to wait for a teacher to turn anything in. Up here in the View All, we have the ability to click on particular grade levels. So if we did this for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, we would be able to choose to filter this down to just one class level, for example. Right now, we can see that several of the students have had a grade submitted by a teacher. They're not completely done yet, so only one of the 7 has submitted their grades. But what happens now is it is locked for the teachers. So if Tessa's teacher said, oh, I'd given Tess an incomplete, but now Tess turned in some extra work and I need to change that grade into the actual grade, one of the things we could do is click the box in front of her, and where it says reopen report cards in this drop down menu, it's the only thing there, we can hit apply. And it's going to ask us which classes, because maybe multiple teachers have turned in grades for that student. If right now, because in the demo, I'm the geometry teacher, I would say that's the one that I needed to change. So you would click that and then reopen that for the teacher. The other way to do that is to click on the student's name. When you click on the student's name, you will be able to see which teachers have turned in grades for that student. You'll see a preview of the report card for the student. So right now, anything that's in orange, I can see that this teacher has not turned in a grade. And this is the one that I'd said, oh, I needed to change because I'd originally put an incomplete in, but now the student made up the work. So I need to make that adjustment. What you can do is click on that reopen, and it will reopen and allow the teacher to change that grade. If for some reason the teacher is not able to go in and submit grades, teacher is out for an extended period of time or something like that, you can click edit, and you will be able to override the value if you needed to change it. So for example, if a teacher forgot and submitted a grade that was, say, a 20%, and you needed to change that to a 40%, you could do that here. You can do an alternate grade, and that's where you could put the incomplete in, or something else for like a medical or something like that. Or you can change it back to the grade book, and whatever is currently in the teacher's grade book for that student would be submitted. You can also access the comment banks, and this one doesn't have all of the comments because, again, it's the sandbox. Ours has a longer list of comments, but you would be able to add those comments in there, and then you click save. And you'll see that now that turns green for that particular teacher. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of the other ones, just for the demonstration purposes. One of the things to note is that once I go through and all of these are submitted, if this is the last one that is not submitted, whenever I go in and submit that grade, for that student from that teacher that hasn't done it before, that student is going to leave. So you'll notice now this is a different student's name because all of the grades for that previous student test that we were looking at have been submitted. So if I go back to the queue, now you'll see that Tess has moved over into this review column. Okay, for demonstration purposes, I went through and made sure that the grades were submitted for another student so we could take a look at that. So in this second column for review, we can click one of those students. And from here, if everything is ready, we can approve the report card. If a teacher says, oh, no, I made a mistake, I need to go back and reopen it, we can also do that from here. We can also approve all of them at one time by checkboxing up above, and then that's going to hit all of them. And we can go in and deselect students as well. And then we can apply that, and then once we do, they will move over to the approved column. Once we are ready and we've checked these report cards and they are all good to go, then we can, again, checkbox those students and click apply. And it will take a few seconds depending upon how many students you're moving over at a time. And now those students are under the approved column. So what this means is if I click on the student, I would have the option to email the report card to the parent or the student, publish it, or mark it as distributed. I can also, again, go back and reopen it if needed to. The regenerate PDF, this would be if we changed the template and we needed to regenerate a report card, or we distributed a report card to a student that had incompletes on it, and now the time is up and the grade has now been calculated, so we need to reissue a new report card. So we would regenerate the new PDF. We can also download the report cards, and that's what some of these little symbols over here also mean. So this would be another way to download a PDF of the report card. And this green arrow is basically going to say, oh, we're going to print it, or it's ready for distributions. We're going to move that over there. Once again, you can click up here to be ready to do this with multiple students. I think probably the best thing to do would be to, when these are ready under the approved column, is mark them as distributed and then apply that, and it's going to move them over to this last column. But when they're in this last column, you'll notice that right now there's an orange crossed out I. That means they are not published. These are still not viewable by the parent and the student in Alma. So we're not completely done yet. Once all of the report cards have moved from the open and been reviewed and then into the approved, and then as they get it approved and checked, we can move them over into the distributed column. And once they're all in the distributed column, now we could go in and we can click all of them. We can email out. So we can email the parents and the students, and then we can put our message in here as well. I believe that we have a message that will be a standard message that will come from the district and the buildings, and that can be copied and pasted into here, and then you'll hit send. The other thing we can do is we can publish them. We can also download for printing, and this is going to download all of them in this column into a zip file. And again, if we needed to regenerate PDFs because we changed our template or something like that, we can do that here as well. You can also download right here by clicking the little download symbol, or you can switch one of these if you just want a particular one switched to the green, which means that it's published. And when it turns green and you see the I, that means that the student and the student's parents will be able to view the report card in their Alma account. Now, if I go back to the main screen for these report cards, now you're going to see that I have 2 of the 16 that have been distributed. 13% of them overall have been approved. So this gives me a little idea, as well as this progress, gives me an idea of how many are open and what's going on within the students that are in this particular batch of report cards.